Is going, so we're recording.
All right, so welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you all giving your time on this Saturday morning and evening for some of you. So I guess for the last week's or whenever, a couple weeks ago that we met, we posted all the minutes. Is there any corrections or updates that we need to make to those meeting minutes, or are we all happy with it the way it is?
I mean, just a small one. I got a notification that Jimmy Maloney was the president. I draw issue with that. I'd like to institute a secondary vote.
Is there a second? Anybody else want to make Quinn the president?
Overthrown.
We're establishing a new position. Yeah, sorry. So, I'm sorry. Please. If anyone has any notes, I think everyone's quite happy with how things have been run. So please.
Thanks, Clint.
You have my full support.
Appreciate that. So I just put together a quick, brief presentation. Let's see if I can share my screen. We'll kind of walk through it that way. That way we have some key points to kind of base this off of, and at the end we can have a discussion and everybody can kind of give their thoughts on it. So let me.
Nice.
Okay. All right. So Track and Field Alumni Association, we can have a vote on what the official name is at some point.
I would create a committee to create it and present it to the group before I would just vote on it.
Yeah, not today, at some point. So after our first meeting, Quinn quickly got online and started creating a website template, and it looks really great. And I'm actually gonna ask Quinn if he can take over and kind of walk us through this website that he's put together so far. Quinn, is that pre-prepared?
Yeah, for sure. Do you want me to do that right now?
Yeah. Let me just stop sharing, actually.
Okay, perfect. Let me share one then. Here. Okay, I'll share this screen. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay, let me open it up so that I can actually scroll through. Okay, so, and we're going to talk about this a bit more, but basically I wanted to put pen to paper and put something together with the board's initial thoughts on what we wanted from not only the alumni organization, but from a website or a platform. And this is kind of the first iteration of that. So I'm just going to briefly take you through what I've put down. And, after that, I'm sure Jimmy can open the floor to ideas and thoughts and basically what we want to do. So my original thought was to have something, exclusive to the track program and friends of the program, whether it be coaching staff, ex-athletes, students who help the program, whatever. And I think the first and foremost, any alumni organization has a responsibility to help existing student athletes. So this would be a collaborative effort between the student athletes that are currently either serving on the board or on the track team and the alumni. So for the sign up, along with your name, your email, regular password, stuff like that, just wanted some basic background information about what people are doing that they can keep up to date, the industry they're in, the company, the skills that they have, and what we're going to be trying to do, and I'll see if I can get in right now, is create what I call a network Bible. So right now this is empty, but what it's going to be is a place where you can see the available resources from the alumni board at a professional level. So where people are working, maybe you look and say, oh, I'm really interested in working, in Germany or in Europe, and we have obviously a robust network there. So you can look, by industry, by skill set, whatever. Or maybe, it's something as simple as you notice someone's working at Siemens and you're interested in entering, the financial accounting department at a similar company and you want resume help. We want to put together a platform where you can reach out to people and ask for that kind of assistance because, networking is vitally important. So this is kind of what I've thrown together. What you'll see here is a representation in the countries where we have representation as an organization. it is quite robust. So I think it's kind of unique in that. One thing I'd like to discuss today that I think Jimmy has on the agenda is our mission, vision, values. So I really want to have a discussion about what we want out of not only the website, but out of the alumni organization. And I think we're going to discuss making some subcommittees for fulfilling those roles. But basically, for me, it's, I've mentioned this before, non administrari sed ministrar. So to serve and not to be served. What can we do for the student athletes, and what can we give back to the program that's given us so much? At least that's my attitude. So for me, it's always going to be, how can the Alumni Network help you? In addition to that, I've just created a brief landing page that will have up-to-date alumni board information, so it'll tell you who's on the board, and that would include the president, so representatives from students. So I'd like to have, everyone, give a brief, kind of little ditty about what they do, their experience at the university, X, Y, and Z. One thing we want to create a small subcommittee for is news. So I'm quite interested to hear people's thoughts on this. This is kind of just going to be like a blog. Basically, I'd like it to, at the very least, cover things that are happening in the program. But I think it'd be quite cool if we could also follow professional developments or accomplishments off the track by our ex-athletes. So, beyond Jim Varenkamp wins Coach of the Year, 100th year in a row, they wheel him onto the track. We get the picture. I'd also like to see, Alex Townsend gets a new job at Novalex and our Queens network expands. Exciting new things like that. Alex gets a job in Norway, whatever. He's off the grid, like things like that. So anyway, we're going to have a committee, I think, in charge of that kind of posting, but we like it to be on a semi-regular basis. From a social perspective, I've just linked this to the social media that we already have existing for Queens. So this is just, the Instagram feed. I'd like to include the Twitter feed and the Facebook feed. I don't really want to make feeds just for the alumni group because I think that's what the website's for. I don't think there's, we need to give ourselves any extra work. Ideally, we'd like to have an up-to-date calendar that's run by one person or one group that will include, not only events that are coming up, like, the cross team has the Queen City invite, but, maybe an alumni decides they want to host a tailgate. They want to host a party, a get-together for after. We'd like to really kind of build that community through this. Could even be something as small as, someone wants to speak about their experience working in a specific industry and do a webcast. That might be a great way to use our resources. And then finally, I just threw a gallery up here very quickly. I think this could include not only track photos, but things that are happening in people's lives and just kind of growing the robustness of the visual representation that is our program. So that's taking a second to load here. That's probably because I'm on the video call at the same time. But, that's basically what I've thrown together. It's all done on Wix. The domain name for the site that I have chosen right now that we're still discussing in the, smaller executive board or alumni executive board is the royalstracknetwork.com. If anyone had any other thoughts on that, I'm happy to to discuss. But we own that domain. I can publish this site now, but we really want to get a better idea of what people are looking for before we set the tone and everything moving forward. So that's it. So I'm going to hand it back to Jimmy now. Thank you very much.
Hand it back. Can you expand a little bit on the first page, QUTF, TNF Global, on your, submission form for either current athletes, anybody that's interested, how we want to kind of use it to link up?
Sure. So this would just link to, right now, it'd link to, an email that we set up for the website, but we would like to troubleshoot or kind of discuss spitball ideas on how we want this to be done. The way that I picture it, if people don't feel comfortable listing their public information, like their phone number, their work, is we have people write in, if you're a current student athlete and they'd say, listen, I'm a third year junior and I'm considering moving into this field. I don't know if I want to work in the US. I haven't had an internship yet. These are the things I'd like to focus on. And then the administrators on the site could then link them up with 3 or 4 people, that are willing to give either mentoring advice, professional advice, link them up with other parties for internships or things like that. Or we can make it an open feedback thing where, if somebody posts something, it's posted in a public space and people can respond in a free form way with whatever thoughts they might have. So yeah, for me, it could really be anything. One of the ideas with not leaving the site locked or closed by making passwords and approvals is it allows other organizations to kind of collaborate with the Royal Network, the Royals Track Network, whether that's an organization that wants to donate or wants to hold a fundraising event for us or participate in some capacity. That's something that we'd be interested in looking at too, if we keep the site open. But for me, I'd like it to be the one landing space for everything, because I think, having a singular place with all this information and where we can kind of guide where we want things to go is going to improve the overall robustness and success of what we're trying to do.
I mean, I guess there's always, we could always have like a members only area where you have to log in and then could post those things like more privately. Because I think there's quite a lot of value in just throwing it out to all the alumni so that people can look at it at like a request like this and look at it and see, oh, I can help. So it's not in the hands of like a couple of people to kind of have to know everyone and what everybody's doing and deciding like, oh, you could help that person. But I mean, of course, that's
fully agree. Yeah, fully agree. So I put this out to the executive board a few weeks ago now, and Johanna actually gave me some really great feedback. That was one of her ideas, and I think it's a great one. So I'm thinking about maybe just exclusivity within the network Bible, and then let the other information be public. And just before I forget, the last thing I wanted to add is, as an alumni organization, we only have a fleeting association with the school and the program, in what we're trying to do. So Wix actually allows me to do fundraising tools on the site. So one thing I was thinking that might be, kind of interesting is if we post a public place so everyone can see, where if they donate money, we can put it towards publicly listed causes. We want to run an alumni barbecue, and our goal to fundraise is $300 for burgers, buns, and beer, right? And we can actually publicly say, Anonymous or X donated this much money, that's put into a public fund, and we use it to host these events or to do specific things that are outside the scope of the program. And because we're not directly affiliated with the school, that's at our discretion. So it's something that we would, really be able to control at a per event level. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Quinn.
Of course. Yeah. Here, let me stop the share here.
All right. So let's bring this back up. So our next line item on the agenda is going through the establishment of committees. So in order to really accomplish our long-term goals, we really, we want people to engage, and we're going to need to break up some of those responsibilities. And I know Jim sent out a form asking for all of you to submit your interest. So we'll go through these and kind of talk a little bit about what they are and go from there. But we have Recognition Hall of Honor. That's going to be, recognizing our alumni athletes so that we can honor some of their accomplishments that can be voted on by the alumni group. Law and legislation, bylaws, super exciting. But it's something that's important, right? Obviously, we need to make sure that we have a framework that if you have a question on, is this acceptable? There's something that you can point at and say, okay, well, I'm following the bylaws. There's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. I can continue to move forward. Just an example. So NCAA bylaws, they have in their ethical conduct, membership rules, their different committees, regulations, and then enforcement of their policies and procedures. So those are important. We're going to need, people to be involved there and make sure that we keep those updated. And it's really however we want to structure them. It can have some basic framework, and we kind of branch out from there. And as we add more topics to the alumni group, we can add on to the bylaws. So professional development, help student athletes with the professional involvement, kind of, when you're in college and you're looking to go out into the professional field, we can have that connection there, like Quinn was talking about in the website to submit. I see Yannick or Quinn are over in Asia or Japan, in Japan or China, if I want to go work there, I have a contact that I can reach out to and ask for some advice. Advancement, so finances for the program, they're going to be just making sure that we're progressing as a group, right? So if we're going to have events, that's going to require some sort of financial contribution, whether it's $300 for hot dogs, beers, and buns, or making sure that we're keeping track of our fundraising and what our goals are, and that tracking certain goals and progressing towards those and tracking them. Newsletter and promotion. So whether it's on the website, we can have somebody who's responsible for tracking current events at Queens, like how did Queens perform at the Twilight meet this year, who has accepted a promotion in the last month, just different events that are important to communicate to the group so we can acknowledge everybody's what's going on in the alumni and Queens organization. Alumni outreach, so connecting with our alumni. I know we had a really great turnout for that first meeting. Thanks everyone for being on the call today. Obviously not everybody is going to show up at every single meeting, so I think it's important to kind of engage with each group and make sure that, if somebody hasn't been involved or is involved at certain points, that we're staying connected with them and really driving that engagement. So they're also going to be responsible for setting up events, and you just kind of reaching out and staying connected. International alumni outreach. So I'm sure that'll, kind of fall to Joanna and Quinn. Those are athletes that are in different countries that are closer, maybe in the same time zone. Be a little bit easier, but those will be kind of, we'll have a separate international alumni board. I'm sure that will fall under that responsibility. Queens officials, Jim asked me to add this one, so I don't want to guess. I'll let Jim kind of talk and give an update on that.
Yeah, one of the things that we really struggle with within the world of track and field is having officials for work events. One of the things that I'd love to try to establish is, with the goal of having our own facility someday, we need to have the ability to staff that facility with people that are capable of understanding the events and are capable of officiating those events. So I thought one of those things would be something that we could work within our group, with whether it's people, just alumni. I want alumni to become officials so that we build out a large pool of officials, of people that I know that we can have come work either a track meet or work a cross country meet. I can pay you. That's part of that thing. You get some money for coming to a home track meet. And then I don't know what everybody else's experience is with officials. I know that I have competent people that I know, that I trust, that can help provide student athletes with a great experience. And it really doesn't take a whole lot other than just kind of understanding the rules. You don't have to be USATF certified to be an official at an NCAA meet. You really just have to be willing to volunteer to come and do it. There isn't a certification or anything like that, but I'd love to establish if you go to Penn Relays, it's a club, if you will. Everybody wears the same blazer. It's colored. It's got their little logo on it. That's how you identify who the officials are. I'd love to do something like that. And then I'd love to also, after we have track meets, if we've got enough officials and stuff like that, we go to Lucky Lou's and dinner is covered and it's on me, and we just have a social opportunity. So it's more of an opportunity for people to engage from a social standpoint and give back to the program in that way. So that's what that is.
Okay, can you hear me? Am I on mute?
No, you're good.
Okay, good. Great. Yeah, no, so I'm glad I didn't guess, because I would have been wrong. So thanks, That's really interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that that would be an opportunity there. So very cool. Just ad hoc. So these are our standing committees. These are going to be important throughout the time that we have an alumni organization. They may change, but for the most part, this will be our general framework. We have ad hoc committees. So those will be as they come up. If you have interest, submit your interest, and we can always look at those and see if it's something that we can get enough people involved or on board with, and use that to set up an ad hoc committee. So right now, the website that Quinn's putting together, that's going to require some resources. So if we want to get 3 or 4 people that are interested in kind of being involved in the website and developing it and making sure that it's staying up to date, and that it's really kind of serving the purposes that the alumni and the current athletes want it to serve. We'll need to put together a committee for that. A volunteering committee. That's just one that I added in there because I think that's important to give back to your community. I think it'd be really great to have a group of people who look for opportunities for us to volunteer and share those with the rest of the group, and try and get some, either athletes or alumni to stay involved and, volunteer some of their time to really help out others that, may need it. So, all right, moving on. Let's see. Oh. Okay, so meeting schedule. During the last executive meeting, we kind of established a framework for our quarterly meetings. Executive committee, so we'll be meeting once a quarter. We've established Sundays at 9 a.m. kind of work best for everybody. We have a lot of different schedules on that meeting, so we'll all be able to make that time. The Alumni Advisory Board will have a meeting the Wednesday, the week after the executive meeting. That'll be to review the things that were discussed on the executive committee call, and then to go over other advisory board topics. International Advisory Board will have their meeting the Wednesday 2 weeks after the executive meeting, once a quarter. And that's really, up to Joanna and the rest of the international group. If you find a time that works better for you, you don't have to stay Wednesday. It can be whatever day of the week, whatever time works best for you. Student Athlete Advisory Board once a quarter, Wednesday 2 weeks after the executive meeting. So that'll be usually right around the same time that the International Advisory Board meets. And then the committee meetings will be important. So those will be in between the quarterly meetings. That's where we're gonna get the majority of our work done and make sure that we're, progressing towards our goals. Each committee really is gonna have, their own responsibilities separate of the entire group, that they can meet as a closed group and make sure that, we're staying on task and showing some progress. So that's all I have really for as far as framework goes in this presentation. So I want to open it up for kind of a Q&A and discussion. So I'll stop sharing my screen. I guess just to start off, I'll give it to Jim and see if he has any comments or.
Yeah, I'm going to share real quick. I think there's always some confusion in regards to what we're actually talking about. This right here is the structure of the group that we're working in. Hopefully, let's see if I can make it a little bit larger for everybody here. The Alumni Executive Board is made up of President Jimmy Maloney, Quinn Ryder, Johanna Schoenecker. Should I realize I didn't put her last name on there, maybe because that box wasn't big enough, but and then Kyle Wolf as well. Then we also have the Student Athlete Executive Board, which is made up of Harris Hellberg, Jillian Kazich, and Elise Ulseth. Below them, there will be the full group of the Student Athlete Advisory Board, which I need to list in there as well. And they'll have their own working groups and committees. So on the left-hand side, you can see the Alumni Advisory Board is made up of all of you that are on this call, plus more. And then below that are working groups and committees. Just wanted everybody to kind of understand the structure of these two and the interplay between them. Harris is here just to hear what's being said and to give feedback. And he's kind of our main go-to back and forth. Same with Jill. And Elise just wasn't on the call today. They both told me they weren't able to get on here, but they're going to be doing something similar to what we're doing here in an effort to kind of work together. But I just wanted to share that. I'll throw that in the notes so that everybody can see that. If there are any questions about it, we can go from there. But that's the main thing I wanted to get to. Jimmy, you're got any questions about, I guess the real question is, do we have any questions about the committees and all that stuff?
Are we just gonna like tell everyone to pick one committee to join, or how are we gonna go about that to find out who's in which committee?
Jimmy, we talked about that. You want to cover that for people?
Yeah, I think everybody, if we can get everybody to submit their interest, and we can look at that as a group and the executive board and see where we have most of our interests, and then kind of select a few people. And we want to make sure that it's spread out. So if we have everybody on here wants to do one thing, that's we're not going to be effective if that's the case. So we'll select 3 people, and then we can talk to the rest of the group and say, hey, this is what you selected. Is there a chance that you may be willing to do networking or help out with the website? We know that you have these sort of skills. Are you willing to kind of contribute your time here? So I think one thing that's important to add, if there's something that's important to you that you see missing, you can always submit your interests and we can address that. I think right now it's really important to kind of establish our framework and make sure that we're touching base on those key areas, but there's always opportunities to kind of branch out if you don't see something that we're touching on right now.
One of the things too, Johanna, that we're going to do is the members of the executive committee. So that's the president, VP, international VP, secretary. We're going to assign those people to a committee per your approval. So for example, I would appreciate if you would head up, and you can head up more than one, but at the very least, the International Alumni Outreach, I would put you as the chair of the committee for that, so that then you could work together with anyone who's abroad right now, and you would, not so question, but you would encourage them to join your committee so that you could work together to manage some of that stuff. And you've also expressed interest in, wouldn't necessarily be a standing committee, but some of the stuff where we work, professional development committee. That would be another thing where maybe you're not the chair of the committee, but you work on that as well.
Yeah. So play to people's interests, but also kind of cater to their skill set.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that makes sense. Cool.
Yeah.
Is there a timeline we're trying to have these committees set by?
Next 2 weeks. We're just trying to establish that. Again, committees are always in flux, but I think the biggest thing is we're trying to establish a chair. So if I go ahead and I take a look at, this is what I've gotten so far from people. So these are the people that have responded to the large enough if everybody can see it. These are the people that have responded to the committee interest right now. So we've got Harris, Avery, Daisha, Danny, Kyle, Aya, and Alex. Some of the people that are already on the executive board, we're going to assign those people. And then we're going to take this and just maybe follow up with each person to say, you know, for example, Danny, you're on this call. You said that you're interested in professional development and advancement. Which one is closer to your heart? And that would be an opportunity for you to say, well, this is really what I would like to do. Meets and needs. Danny, which one do you have priority over, or that you like the most?
I would say professional development.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that would be, so there you go. I mean, that's pretty much our process. Finding a way to, and then Danny has some experience within the business world. If we're going to establish a 501c3 that's going to be, you know, Queens Track alumni group, right? We may use your experience and ask you to be on that committee for a period of time while we establish the 501c3, and then maybe establish you as the finance officer, the treasurer for this group. But that's one of the things that we also discussed as a group, is not only being set up as a group that can work in parallel with the track and field team, but literally creating also a financial piece of that, where legally we have the ability to do some things that meet the goals of this group, where it doesn't only just feed into Queens, but you also have, like, if you need beers, burgers, and buns, you've got your own fund already established to create something like that. And I don't have a ton of experience working as I probably have more, I guess, as a 501c3 than most people, but establishing that and going through that process, we may establish or have that finance board kind of work through something like
that. So not going to put, I guess I'll put Alex on the spot for a little bit. I had talked to him a little bit about finance and advancement. So I think, you know, Alex he works in finance currently, and, you know, we're interested in having people that are experienced and have that background kind of contributing in specific areas. So I think that's, you know, it sounds like Alex is having some background noise. No, we can't hear you, Alex.
You gotta take it off mute.
No, I think he's off mute, but it sounds like he's got some background noise.
Technical difficulties.
You can sign it to us, right?
Yeah, do you know sign language?
Yeah, that's why he's in finance.
One, okay, I got it. Who says one word?
He's telling you you're number one.
First word.
Two letters.
Sounds like.
No, but I agree with that. And then, Jimmy, that's one of the things. So we've had some guys that are going to be alumni now that work in finance that are really interested in creating their, like we talked about, creating an endowment. I mean, if that's something that maybe that is done externally, not even internally, that would be set up to support just this group every single year, that would give you like a budget every single year, and then you could work back and report.
Can we put him on mute?
So, Jim, you mentioned outside of this, if we did the endowment fund, will we still have to follow all of the Queen's guidelines for that? Okay. And with something like that, we could actually have our alumni, our finance experts, our alumni, if you will, overseeing that.
Agreed. Yes. Townsend, try it now.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Faintly, turn up that mic.
Oh, man.
I don't know if I can turn it up any louder.
Now it's working. All right.
Roger.
Yeah. I mean, I was telling Jimmy yesterday that I am a budget analyst, and I'm pretty much a budget manager. I was for 3 factories. So I guess it wouldn't be a big stretch to like set up some budget stuff and understand like who wants what for priorities and like just try to make like a pretty formalized, like, I don't want to call it a template, but like saying like this is the endowment that we're starting with. This is where we want the appropriated funds to go this year. All in favor, all decline, and then we can kind of like see how much things cost that way. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's something that's very doable. I live in Excel, so it wouldn't be a big stretch.
So, Alex, are you comfortable with being the chair of the finance committee?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Sure. I hear responsibility, lots of it.
Yeah, lots of responsibility. Are you responsible enough to manage all the finances of this group and work with people to move that forward, I guess?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of experience with nonprofits on the finance side. I was on the board of directors for a foster care program for a while, but we didn't really get into the actual finances of it all. So to understand, I mean, we're going to start small, so it wouldn't be like we'd be having a full blown out balance sheet with assets, but we would have an endowment that we would have to manage, and we'd probably have to report on it. So I would just have to kind of take a, crash course in nonprofits.
Well, the good news is right now we don't have any assets and we don't have any money and we don't have an endowment.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah.
it'd be a great, you've already got training wheels on the bike. We're not moving very fast. It'd be really easy to find some people that are like-minded. I think one of those people that I wanted to encourage to be a part of this is who ran the 400 for us this year?
Noah Ingalls.
Yeah, Noah Ingalls. Yes. I think
Oh, yeah.
I think he'd be good for that. And anybody else that's interested in that. I don't know, professionally, I don't know what everybody's experience is. Other than like, I know what Nate and I know what Asia do, but if you're in the business world like Alan, I don't know specifically what you do. I know you work at a bank and that involves money, but I don't know what specifically your professional experience or interests are.
I don't work at a bank.
No, Alan.
Oh, I was about to say, I was like,
I'm currently in project management, so I'm a data geek. So not so much finance, but organization. I mean, I can, if anybody needs anything, I can help. But
So what if I asked you to be on the law and legislation committee that builds out what our bylaws are? And basically, I guess not everybody knows this, but I've already got a framework for that. It's basically delete out what we don't need, keep what we want out of all of it. Would you be interested in managing that?
sure.
Great. Alan's going to be the chair of law and legislation.
We're all screwed.
Alan, what events did you run when you competed?
I was cross country. When I came, we didn't even have a track team yet. So I was pre-track team. We did do track, but it was individual, individual basis. Unofficial. We were, unattached, but cross country.
Okay.
Well, the assistant basketball coach was a cross country coach, right?
She knew zero about running, but yeah.
Just go run. You got it.
Yeah, that's it. No joke. That the very first practice, she just said, "All right, go at it." And we're like, "Where do you want us to go? What do you want us to do?" And she's like, "I have no idea. Run that way." She pointed us to Freedom Park, and we would pretty much just loop Freedom Park until we were tired, and that was that. She tried. She did get a bunch of books, and she read, and she got better as the years went on. But at the end of the day, she was still a basketball coach. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you work with what you have, so.
Yeah, we've come a long way in the 20 years. Let's put it that way.
I would agree. Well, I think, kind of like Jim was saying, we don't have a ton of assets right now. And I think that's going to, be the same premise for a lot of these roles is it's, we're starting really from the beginning. So you may not have a ton of responsibility up front, but establishing your, processes and how we want things to build out as we go, it's going to be really important to make sure that we have a good framework and foundation for the beginning to make sure that, there's longevity to this group and that, people that come on later can continue these processes and make sure that, you know, we're progressing as an alumni group.
Once we have some assets, would it be sensible to create another executive position of a treasurer or something? I feel like that's quite common practice.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And yeah, just one more small thing that I wanted to add is that, you know, obviously what we're talking about is quite long term, except for the see you later, Avery. Bye. Thanks for joining. Is the fact that, you know, even though we're talking about filling positions that we've already decided, we believe that, you know, you guys are our greatest assets, and, you know, the experience that you bring to the table might not fit into the roles that, you know, we're talking about here. But if you feel that you have something that is of value to what we're trying to do, or that we haven't listed, please speak up. Please send us an email. Please, you know, write in the group after this about what you're thinking, because like I said, as being asset poor, being just poor in general, and not having the resources, you know, we want to know what you can bring. And yeah, you're really setting the tone for what the future of whatever we're trying to do now is. So it's really is important. So for example, like Chris Villella, I know he's not here, but, you know, top-notch design skills, really clean when it comes to doing things of that nature. And yeah, I think it's important, you know, and even though nothing we've said, you know, besides maybe the website committee might fit that specific skill set, it doesn't mean that those things aren't valued.
One thing too, I know you mentioned like we don't have quite the funds yet. As we start progressing into some of these events, I know at least I've got connections with bars, breweries, things like that. I think it's probably good if we try to leverage that, especially in the early phases, because a lot of them, they'll be like, all right, yeah, we'll give you guys a couple pizzas or a keg or something like that.
Yeah.
As long as it's going to a certain cause. And so I'm sure that throughout our alumni group, pending connections, we can probably establish some events that are pretty cost effective.
Definitely. Yeah, I think we're resource rich in experience and the do-good spirit. So yeah, whatever you can bring to the table, whether it be professional experience, internships, you know, specific experience like Alex and his financial accounting and auditing, whatever. Yeah, these things have value.
From Jimmy's and my experience that Wayne, this starts to become professional begging, but it works.
Like
For kegs. So
yeah, there you go. Beg for keg.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing, right? We want to make it so that people want to be involved. So if we can establish some of these, you know, meetups where you come and you grab a beer, you're not gonna have to twist my arm to go there, right? So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot easier.
Well, and we've done stuff like that in the past. Alan is probably the only person that has been at any of the alumni events that we've done in the past. So we've done things, for example, where I've gone and paid for a keg at the bowling alley, and it's been free beer. You come and bowl if you want, or just hang out and be social. And I've had a really hard time giving away free beer. So that's why I need you guys to be organized enough to make some plans to work within your sphere of influence. So think about like if your best friends are on the call right now, we're probably already screwed. Need to like expand who you know from an alumni standpoint, and thinking about encouraging them to be involved in some way. And that's why when we talk about establishing these different committees, we would like you to pick the people that you like and encourage them to volunteer on your committee. So if Danny is now the chair of the professional development group, we want Danny to find 2 or 3 friends to work with her on that committee, that are people that you already talk to on a regular basis, that you can engage, that you can encourage to work on that with. And that may be, and it doesn't have to be people that are physically within your proximity, just people that are around. And I'll do as much as I can to help schedule Zoom calls and stuff like that, and give people the resources that they need to have those meetings and do those things. So that I'm really trying to facilitate whatever it is this group needs. So Townsend, whoever your best 2 friends are that aren't on the call, you need to get them on that really fun advancement.
But say so, like 2 of them are definitely on this call, and the third is also on this call. So, all right.
And I guess, I mean, it goes without saying, but these people don't necessarily have to be, ex-track athletes. I don't know who off the top of my head that I know would want to commit time to it. But, if you're a business or an organization, having that kind of exposure and cooperation does make sense a lot of times. I know we're not, it's not a middle school basketball team. We're sponsored by the local ice cream place, but, I wrote on the website very specifically alumni, athletes, or friends of the program. So it really doesn't have to be limited to, like Jim said, anyone on this call. If you know someone who's willing to give back time because they're interested in spending the time to volunteer and grow something, then sure, why not?
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. If we can reach out to somebody that has something to offer, if you're on a committee or making a website and somebody, you have a friend that's makes databases, and we want to have a database that we dump all the, current athletes contact information into and have an easy way to update it. And we, hey, can you help with this current task I have? And that's, they're volunteering their time and contributing, even if they're not necessarily an alumni. Anything else? Any other questions?
Yeah, something unrelated to committees, subcommittees, anything like that?
I'm slowly assigning people to chair positions just so that everybody knows.
That sounds good.
Danny, I've got you down for, well, I'll just start here. I've got Kyle Wolf is assigned to the recognition chair. I've got law and legislation. Alan Duggan chairs that. Professional development, I've got Danny Konopelski down for that. For advancement, got Alex Townsend down to chair that. I don't have one for newsletter and promotion. For alumni outreach, I put Daisha Thompson down there. She expressed interest in that. I've got international alumni outreach, Johanna. Queens officials, I haven't put anybody down for that. I'd like that to be somebody that's physically proximal in Charlotte. I can put somebody down for that. I've got Quinn down as the website chair for the moment since he's heading that up. And then volunteering, I do not have anybody for that one yet, but those are the standing ones that I have right now. So if you've got people in mind that you'd like to chat with, you can get back to me on. The ones that I've got open are newsletter or promotion, and that's just figuring out who the most social person is, who knows the most information about the group, that'd be willing to help us coordinate a newsletter that goes out quarterly. And then Queens officials, that would be one. Somebody that's interested in getting paid to come out and be my official for, like Royals Challenge or Queen City Invite right now. And I think that pays $100 to go watch a cross-country meet and know what the rules are. So that's where we're at right now with all those.
Nice. Very good.
Perfect. Yep. One thing I'd like to add, I didn't add it on the website, but if I could ask Harris, if you could go back to the rest of the existing student athlete body and the people on your committee and, see what they're looking for in terms of, professional development and resources from the website that would drive engagement. Because one thing that we'd like is if we're doing this on a registration basis, we don't want this to end after your 4 years. We would like people to continue using the website and engage with it in a way that, they don't feel embarrassed to say, I just got hired at X and I want my teammates, I want the alumni network to know, and they'll report that because I can't follow, everybody. So ideally I'd like to, in a world, a perfect world, I finished, I'm going to continue my running career, or I got a job and I want people to know, and I want to extend the same level of help and thanks to people that I was given. So that, along with just asking them what kind of resources they'd like to see, what kind of things they'd like to see on the site, please let us know, because I think that would help not just the website, but our committee as a whole.
Yeah, that's great. We have a call tomorrow with the med, and I'll kind of mention that and see where that goes. A lot of them don't really know kind of what they want out of it because there's never been such a thing.
Of course.
But I'm sure that we can kind of create culture where we can be like, okay, after you graduate, no matter what, you post what you're doing in the group, and then that at least that serves as a baseline for people to be to check in or whatnot.
Definitely. And
Like,
yeah,
if I want to throw a little bit of something on there, like there's just because like we're gonna be parts of certain committees and other subcommittees and stuff like that. There's lots of us that have experience in lots of other fields and lots of other facets. So like if we just pose it, to the broad spectrum of the group, like for those of us that are local, if there wants to be something as simple as like a resume building like
Yeah.
lecture, like a resume building like, hey, FYI, I went through 35 different interviews and I had 10 different resumes and they all failed. Here's what I did. What do you guys think? How does this
Right.
look like for you? I mean, there's a lot of us that have tons of experience outside of just what our current Romans scope is. So if you want us, the first meet and greet may be really like open, but like later on down the road, if you guys have like, if Jim just says, hey, who's up for internships this year? Do you want to have some of the alumni come in and talk about what the good and the bads were? Like there's probably a fair amount of us that are like, oh, I've got a lot, and it
Yeah.
becomes a story time, but it's less of a story time of like take notes kids and more like a hey, like just so you guys know, this is what you should sign up for when you're doing this. So I mean, a lot of us
Right.
came
And
from I mean, some of us were undergrad at Queens and some of us were graduate students at Queens who had very similar experiences in much different fields. So it's
Yeah.
something that like we want to make sure that the students know like y'all we're not much different than you were and we want you to succeed and here's what we did wrong. So
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that comes from like, just a relatability standpoint, and hopefully it depends on students really want to do though, because we do have like the Vanderveer Center, and we are required, the internship class, and those skills are like kind of developed there. We create a LinkedIn profile, we do a mock interview, we do a mock resume. So those things might overlap a little bit, but hopefully people come to, okay, I feel better talking to Queens, like ex Queens track athletes, and maybe they have more relevant experience than like my mock interviewer was a guy at Lowe's. I work in healthcare. That really didn't resonate with me at all because he's like, oh, like what happens on an ambulance or what happens? I was like, well, why am I explaining this to you?
Sure.
You're supposed to be interviewing me. So hopefully that like the relatability, is a selling point for our professional development.
Definitely.
Well,
And going back to just for a second, go ahead.
Is like that's kind of where I like wanted to segue for a second is if there are like legitimate classes required, like if we can spin this as the alumni can come in and help you with your homework, like it's easier for us to kind of donate a little bit of our time and also like contribute back to our specific, to our student athletes. Because like in a sense, what has been trying to like push is like Queens is ours too, and you guys are maybe not our responsibility, but we absolutely want to help because I mean we were in that position. So even if it's something what you guys might think is dumb, like oh I've got homework. Well, for us it's a Saturday morning with a coffee, and we can just sit there and bullshit for a little while. And if it's progressing you, then to us that's progress.
Right. Yeah. So in addition to what Alex just said, in terms of what exactly you'd like to see, whether it's homework help, resume building, XYZ, to his previous point, as you saw in that first form, the sign up form for the site that I made, that's really a template that I'd like some feedback on. So I don't really know how to ask people to list their professional proficiencies, whether they're good at SAP, whether they're good at financial accounting, whether they're, I don't know. I don't know if it should be a drop-down menu, if it should be a set list, if I should let people, write in exactly what they feel are the things that they specialize in, that they want to offer advice in or feel confident offering career advice in. But these are the kinds of things I'd really like feedback in, not just from the student athlete group, but also from the rest of the board. If they had a chance to, to offer it in that WhatsApp group, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely mention that to the student athletes as I continue to talk to them.
Perfect. And yeah, to Jim, I just hope that I remember when I first came in, I obviously wasn't a freshman, but we sat down one day and did like the NCAA paperwork and orientation stuff. So maybe what we can do is once we decide on what the template's going to be, you can include this as the czar of track and field. You must go onto this website, you must register. it's a valuable resource so that we can start building. And even if we only get 60% engagement after 4 years, I mean, it's still better than us trying to now put together this
60%
program.
engagement would be off the charts for an
It'd
alumni.
be tremendous. Yeah, of course. But, you know.
Well, one of the
Right.
things that I tasked Harris with doing is chasing around everybody who is currently on the team and requiring them to create a LinkedIn profile and be an affiliate with our alumni group on there. And,
Right.
you know, it's kind of interesting. I slowly am getting a trickle of people, because I went through and messaged every alumni who had been on a roster that had a LinkedIn profile. And I get a slow trickle. Nathan Fields sent me a message the other day and just said, hey, I don't ever get on here, but wow, I didn't know this was a thing. I got on here the other day. I'm going to be a part of the group. And he was on the team at the very end of whoever was before Simmons and right at as Simmons was here for 5 years. So that goes back almost 20 years. People that are just stumbling upon it, and but it's gonna take concentrated effort to make sure that the people that are currently on the team get engaged right away. The people that are a long way back, that we continue to reach out and get those people as a member of the group. But Harris and I are going to work. That's going to be one of the primary roles of the president, is to make sure that we build out engagement now so that when you leave, we can stay engaged.
So Jim, I've kind of got a dumb question. If we wanted to do a beers and like meet with like the student athletes, obviously the ones that are 21 would be allowed to drink. If we're associated with the students and it's Queens, are they allowed to drink at all? Like, I know that it's not like, let's get loaded, but it's like, you know, like a
So
good
one
way
of
to
the
encourage
things, yeah, that's a great question. One of the things that Emory University did when I worked there is they had kegs on the quad every Friday, and all of the professors, they would just have a keg, and you were expected as a business student, if you were 21, to go over there and drink free beer with your professors and network. And part of it was just understanding what that means and how to navigate that world. I think that is part of what we are doing. There are limitations to what I can be affiliated with, right? But as an alumni organization, you guys are not beholden to the same rules that I am. As a track coach, I'm not really allowed to go out and have beers with my kids. It's an industry standard. But the rest of the group can have a networking event where those kids do what 21-year-olds do. I mean, there's legally nothing. I would say there's nothing morally, legally, ethically against that. Teaching a person to network and operate in that sort of route.
They just have to make sure they show up for practice. That's what you told us.
Well, that's interesting you said that, because the industry that I'm in, a lot of it is like entertainment and socializing. And I had to kind of learn on the fly, like how to network and socialize and drink without losing myself, you know? And so I think having that setting for these athletes would be beneficial, because I still see people, I work with people that can't quite control their alcohol while they're in these settings, and sometimes we have to ask them to leave. And so I think that'd be extremely important.
One of the things that I know Doc does, he owns Selwyn.
Oh, yeah.
Like I think when you graduate, everybody gets a free drink ticket or 3 free drink tickets.
Yeah, like drink with the professors or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So there's a precedent, and there's some things that go on there. When Jeannie was here, there was the emphasis was no alcohol at any event ever around kids, which to me, I struggle with. Complete hard abstinence doesn't really teach people what the real world is like. Versus if people just go ahead.
Abstinence only teaching doesn't work. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to take a political, guys. Just a commentary.
If you can permanently keep it away from a person for their whole life, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, there's that level or that moment where they interface with things that are in the real world. That's what we want to teach, and I think that's important. Yes. Asia, you've been quiet this whole time. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just rolled out of bed. So. Everything sounds good though.
Any questions or concerns from you?
What I guess is I'm like in Virginia. What can people that aren't in Charlotte do? Like I don't have a house, so I can't like host anything, but I feel useless in some regards, I guess.
Well, I think part of that is just because you're in Virginia doesn't mean that you're always going to be there. And I think the biggest thing is finding out who else is in your area, who else is kind of in that Northern Virginia area. Doesn't mean that you have to meet with them or spend time with them, but you can work on these groups just like you're on this Zoom call now. So if you're working on alumni outreach with Daisha, like you guys can still plan things. You can still get on the phone and help her orchestrate some of those things and come to a golf outing in the summer, whether it's to play golf or just to come and socialize and come back and do those different things. We just want you to be involved in it. And I know that, I don't know if the rest of the group knows, Asia coaches track at her university, and she's working on some graduate studies there as well. Even if your work doesn't really allow you to be really good at planning the golf outing just because you've got to recruit and you've got other things to do, you can still just be connected with the group and serve where you can, which is giving your opinion and being connected. Like those are, to me, are really, really important components or pieces of what we're doing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Asia, what university do you coach at?
It's called Shenandoah University. It's a small private D3 school.
Is that near Virginia Tech at all?
Maybe like an hour and a half away. It's the very top of the state.
Okay.
Keep driving.
There's a-
on 81.
Gotcha. Because there's an alumni that ran with me. He's a professor at Virginia Tech. But
Yeah, speaking of that, Alan, do you want to kind of bring up what he shared with us the other day and kind of get some feedback?
I'm gonna try to talk to him more about what that is. But Aaron Brantley ran with me 2000 to 2004. Professor at Virginia Tech. He, with all the social unrest and the Black Lives Matter movement, he wanted to piggyback off of a current volunteer event going on where, kids who, the Ahmaud Arbery who was gunned down running in a neighborhood. There's some sort of, we're going to get more information, but there's some sort of already existing volunteer effort where kids want to run, they don't feel safe running in their neighborhood, sort of safety in numbers, sort of an outreach program where you can just go and run with a kid for a couple miles or, something like that. So I'm going to talk to him more to see what he kind of had in mind, but he emailed me and Coach Jim asking about it. He didn't know there was an alumni advisory board. So, I'll get more information and can report back to everybody.
Cool, thanks. Nate, have you got any feedback or any questions?
I have no questions. My feedback is positive, and I will do what you guys need me to do.
Perfect.
We've got to
Get a
yes.
haircut.
You live in Charlotte. Do you want to head up the? Oh, where did I put it here?
Little officials, people. You want me to? You want to be an official?
Yeah.
Sure, I'll be an official.
Like, because legitimately, like when I host Royals Challenge, Queen City Invite, we're going to host conference this year. I am required usually to have an official.
Okay.
I have a budget line where I pay somebody $100, and usually it's a dude that is 100 years old, that is irrational, that has all these weird opinions about track and cross country, and he's always trying to tell me about what it is. So I would rather.
You better get your tinfoil hat ready, Nate. It's
I
very
can
official.
help with that, Ted.
I got it.
Just don't stand in the sector when people are throwing. That's
Just
You can
whoever.
good first
put me
thing.
on that list too. I can help with that. I don't want to share it, but I can help with that.
I'll put you on it as well.
And I'll offer my, I'm in South Charlotte, but I can always offer my house if we do want to host any sort of event. I saw that there's a pool in my neighborhood where we could get the clubhouse and there's a nice grill. So if we ever wanted to do some sort of swimming pool party grill thing, we can do that too.
You know, and the other thing, so Harris, do you want to talk a little bit about what we discussed in regards to that?
Sorry, repeat that.
Do you want to talk about like the beginning of the year gathering that we talked about with student athletes?
Oh yeah, we were kind of thinking of having like a beginning of the year kind of get together, especially this year, I guess, because you know a lot of people were displaced. But just to kind of have all in, like, you know, eat the burger kind of idea that we're talking about, and just it could be alumni, but it's definitely going to be all of the student athletes, and just have, you know, beginning of the year celebration to kick off the year.
Part of our thought was that we would just invite alumni to come, and that would be an opportunity for you guys to interface with the student athletes, like kind of like what Alan was saying. We're going to do it up at my place. The same thing. We got a pool where people can swim if they want, or they can just have food and hang out. But it would give us an opportunity on a Friday evening just to get together as a group. And it would be a great place for alumni to kind of come and show their face and say hello as well.
That's great. Also, Jim, you had mentioned that there's a Friday run with some of the athletes, and I guess they're meeting with high schoolers to try and get a training group together.
Fridays they run at 6 o'clock, and they run from Besant Field, which is at the sports complex. It's a field hockey field right over by my office. They just meet there. It's really informal. They go for a run that's anywhere from 2 to 4 miles. And they go run on the Greenway, which runs from the sports complex where we're at south, and will run north, but it runs south all the way out to 485, almost all the way out to Allen's house.
Yeah. So whether it's either piggybacking off of that or meeting some other time, I do know that there's some alumni that are still training or training. Alan, you said that you still run. But
yeah, I was going to bring that up too. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so if we want to get a training group together, we meet like once a week somewhere. That would be something that I'd be interested in.
We could teach the kids about how accountability as an adult is really hard, because some of us can't count for ourselves running or training.
Well, you're at 10 o'clock, Jimmy. You got anything else that's pressing, or are we good for this call?
No, I think we're good. I just, we're going to have some off-meeting contact that I think is necessary in order to start establishing these committees. And so I'm sure that, whether it's between now and the next meeting, we'll be in contact at some point, right? But
yeah. Jimmy, do you just want to go through very quickly, like the open items, like what's coming next? I mean, I know you just briefly mentioned the committees, but like things that we're asking of people, or I don't know, next steps, so to speak. Or do you want me to go through it? I'm happy to do that too.
I'm okay if you want to go through it.
Yeah. So please share your thoughts on the website. Share your thoughts on what you would like this to look like from the student athlete perspective. Please talk with the other alumni who weren't able to make the call and see what either they can offer or what they're willing to give back to the program, even if it's in a non-monetary capacity. If you think of a committee idea that wasn't spoken about tonight, please direct that thought to somebody on the board. For all international inquiries, please talk to Johanna. And yeah, we're really looking forward to working with everyone and looking forward to the next call.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, not a problem.
All right.
Motion
All
to
good?
adjourn. That's what we're looking for.
Seconded.
Second. Yeah.
Yeah, Quinn, if you sling me that bio template, then that'd be great.
Yep, I've got a couple asks on the website that are aside from the committee, like asking people to write their bios and some very small things that I'll ask the executive committee to deal with, but I'll send that stuff separately. So I'll share my bio. If Kyle, Johanna, Jimmy, you can write your quick little bio. I'll post it up and we'll get this rolling.
Probably need an updated picture on there.
I took it from LinkedIn, so that's your own fault.
I need to update that too.
Yeah, that's on you.
Sophomore year of college.
Send me whatever you like. I'm happy to put
I
it on
am
there.
offering glamour shots at my office at any time. We've got a whole lighting rig set up. Harris can attest to that, right, Harris?
Yes, very much so. And he has like a ton of pictures on his Instagram of like just various coaches using the lighting rig.
All right. Awesome.
So is your next
Very,
job
very
gonna
good.
be a photographer, Jim? Is that what you're trying to like start up your resume?
Professional headshot.
Photography over there.
All right. Well,
Perfect.
thanks everybody.
Okay, thank you
Thanks,
guys. We'll be in contact.
Thanks.
See you next time.